We're shipping Father's Day gifts with a rapid-fire round of questions. Ready?
Yes. My gift. Can you pack it?
Yep.
Ship it?
Yes.
Guarantee it?
Of course.
Oh, send a set of golf clubs.
Oh, hole in one.
Protect electronics? Dog-proof it? Return it if they hate it?
Yes, no, and yeah.
Are you the UPS store?
Hey, we have a winner!
Visit theupsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Most locations are independently owned. Product, services, prices, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Visit a store today.
The kind of old-fashioned cop who preferred working the streets and making arrests to taking tests toward promotion. He was the closest thing New York had to a Dirty Harry.
This is One Tough Podcast on the OG Podcast Network. Here's your host, Bo Dietl.
Welcome to One Tough Podcast. I'm joined here, like always, with Carlo.
Hello.
Today, we have a guy here that I know when he was a little boy.
True.
And he, I would think, is the epitome of a real New Yorker. Everybody calls me a New Yorker, real New Yorker. Eytan Sugarman, to me, is the profound New Yorker. He, as a young boy, used to hard dodge around with my best friend, Charlie Camella, God rest his soul, and he met them all. And then he put together this sports memorabilia, chasing stars and getting signatures. And he then became an entrepreneur. He became best friends with the biggest people in entertainment and the sports world. For instance, Derek Jeter and that other guy that I love. What's his name?
I think you're talking about Justin Timberlake.
Did you know who Justin Timberlake is, son?
Yeah, I think that's.
I think everybody.
Of course, I'm talking about Justin Timberlake. But you have a remarkable life, Eytan, and I'm real excited. I've tried to get you on the show before. We've had everybody here. Yeah, I mean, like
you're doing great. I'm very proud of you
Soup
guys.
to nuts, the show's taking off. But the reality here today is we got to have one moment, because today we wouldn't be here. We'd be all speaking German.
D-Day.
If it wasn't for the brave, not just Americans, Canadians, British, a Allied command attack. People don't realize the first wave on Omaha Beach, 90% of the soldiers were killed on the beach, coming off the boat. The paratroopers hitting the back. Something like 80% of the 101 airborne was shot when they're coming out of the sky. These guys put their lives on the line against enormous odds of these Nazis. And in reality, you have to take a moment, because this ain't bullshit. This is real deal, what they did that day. I mean, imagine sitting in one of those LSD, that's a landing ship dock, and you're sitting in there, you hear all the shooting and all that. Now you're watching guys dying all around you, and you're trying to get to the cliffs, and you're saying, why did we do this with 6,000 ships? I mean, something like 12,000 planes. This was so enormous, and I just wanted a moment to thank all those
Did you see the article in the Post today? There was a survivor, with the chef or the cook.
Yes.
And he said that a lot of the troops went in unarmed. They didn't have enough guns for everybody.
That's crazy.
They stormed there unarmed.
And they were taking the guns of the guys that were dead on the ground. Yeah.
And this is bravery, and this is valor that can't even be put into words.
It's beyond anything because of what they were facing there. And I mean, a lot of people don't know, the Germans had these Tiger tanks that had something like 6 inches of armor. They were blowing our tanks up. I think we had something like 10,000 pieces of armored equipment, but they were able to blow our tanks up, and wow, they were embedded in there. They had 6-foot wall concrete in their little bunkers, and we won that time. And when people start complaining about bull crap, I say to myself, could we ever mobilize the way we did in World War II today, with all this division in our country, everybody crying about, I want this, I want that, I don't want to work for it, I want this, I want free that. Would we be able to mobilize today, Eytan, and get a really fighting army today like we did in World War II? I wonder, because I went through the Vietnam era, and it was horrific about these poor people that went into the service, little 17, 18-year-old kids, and they were spat upon when they came home. And I mean, could we do it today? Could we mobilize? Because right now we don't have any allies. All of Europe has been overtaken by these Syrian refugees. Every city in Europe is going through horrific criminal actions with these people that came over from Syria. Could we mobilize today to save anybody? We got to save ourselves.
Well, I think the bigger question here is, let me ask you guys, why do you think patriotism isn't the same today as it was back then?
I don't know. Please tell me what you think.
I don't have an answer for it.
I love this country.
Yeah.
And this morning I watched from really early in the morning all the television there on the D-Day, and it just made me feel more patriotic. Yeah. And I wear a flag since 9/11. I always wear this beautiful flag, and I still have patriotism, but I just wonder, the younger generation. Now we're finding out through our southern border, I think they had 130,000 migrants just coming through there that they captured in the month of May, 130,000. Now they're saying that there's Asians from China, there's Cubans, there's Syrians. When's the next 9/11? The country's going to be infiltrated. We don't know who's here. I mean, it's not a political Republican, Democrat, and everybody makes it into a political bullcrap for the division. No, it's knowing who's here. Who do we have in our country? Because everyone doesn't love America the way we do it. Some people are coming here to hurt us.
I think we've seen too many examples of that being true, unfortunately.
All right, we're not going to stay on the negatives. I just want to thank everyone that's still alive who fought that day on June 6, 1944. Thank you for letting us have our free country.
Thank you.
And everyone should think about it. Thank you for their service. And thanks for all the military that's still out there today.
Absolutely.
We have a great military.
Absolutely.
Thank everybody. And now we're going to talk about Eytan Sugarman, because Eytan, I met, how old were you? About 9 when I first met you? How old were you?
I wouldn't say 9. I was about 16 when I met you.
And my friend Charlie Camel, you never got the privilege of meeting him. The coolest guy in the world. He introduced me, Charlie, to Frank Sinatra. We had Rocco Marcelli. Used to call him Rocco the Thief. He's still alive. I think he's 94. Yeah. Rocco the best. He used to introduce me to everybody, from Frank Sinatra to Sammy Gravano to, what else did he introduce me to? Gas Pipe Queso. Everybody used to hang out in his jewelry store. You had the mob. You had the entertainers.
There's a lot of interesting names in the same sentence for Sinatra.
But it's true, right?
It is true.
Louis Dome, Chili Rizzo, everybody. Yeah. But the thing was, Charlie Camella, he owned a steel company, Fedco Steel. Nicest guy in the world.
Best.
Most beautiful guy. He would pick up the checks for 15 guys every night. I stopped one night. I told him I was a cop, and we used to go out to dinner all the time. And I used to meet at Armando's. Then we'd go out to dinner, and I go, I can't go out anymore, Charlie. He says, why, Bo? I said, I can't pick up the check. I'm not making that much money, and you pick up the check. He says, that's bullshit. Yeah. He goes, you come out with me, Bo. You're my guest. He was a guest everywhere. Vic Damone. Remember the famous singer Vic Damone? I used to call him America's guest. And then when Charlie was affected by the terrible cancer where he only had a little short time to live.
He had the stroke first. And then
he had the stroke, and then he only had a short time to live, and we put together a party over in New Jersey.
Yeah, by the way, I'm going to stop for a moment. That might have been one of the better moments of your life. That was one of the most selfless things you ever did. When so this was one of our best friends in our life, and he was like a second father to Bo. And he was approaching the end of his life, and shortly thereafter, he was approaching the worst part of cancer, where the disease ravaged him. And he wanted to do a party for Charlie while he was still having a good quality of life. And he rounded up a group of about 150 of his friends. And he did this one moment where everyone stood up and took the mic and talked about the influence that he had on their lives.
Everyone's life.
And it was such a beautiful, beautiful moment.
There was something you didn't even know about. Vic Damone, a famous singer. Yeah. Charlie was his best man when he married the, what was her name, the singer?
Diane Carroll.
Diane Carroll. Charlie had a wing at his house in Forked River, New Jersey. Sure. And all of a sudden, I call up Vic Damone. He was in South Jersey, and he was married to Rena Rowan at that time, very wealthy woman. And he goes, he starts talking like this. He goes, I don't think I can make it, Bo. I says, Vic, you're coming to Charlie's party.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can make it. I says, you better get here, Vic. I know 2 of your wives died mysteriously. I'll investigate it. I hang the phone up. I actually threatened him that if he don't come, I was going to reinvestigate. He shows up there, and he's telling he did show up, and that's all I cared about. That made Charlie so happy. Yeah. I don't think your friend Lasorda showed up.
Tommy had that heart attack a week and a half before. Yeah. So, yeah.
But we had this party. I did it for Charlie and one other guy. Cy Stewart was a famous fashion guy, started Terry Lundgren from Macy's, everybody. Again, toward the end of his cancer, we had it at Sparks, and I brought everybody, Dan Marino, everybody together. It's just like a thing when someone that you know is going away, a great person. What a wonderful thing to make
a great lesson. It's a great lesson to make sure you tell them.
Yeah, because
what's the point of crying at their funeral?
Right.
Yeah,
tell them while they're here.
Send them off, and we had such a great night that a victim almost looking at me like, oh, God rest his soul, Vic passed away. But I did threaten him that if he didn't get there, I was going to reinvestigate the deaths of his 2 wives. A little mysterious, a little bit, but Vic is gone. God bless him. I loved him, and that's it. But let's talk more about
mysterious circumstances.
So we meet, and probably it was the late 70s, I would say, right?
No, it wasn't the late 70s. No. We met. I just turned 45. You and I met.
You were 9 when I was hanging?
I'm sure. I might have looked 9.
Where did we meet?
We met at Rayo's. I think I was just 17 because I was in the baseball card business. I was assisting Tommy Lasorda. He brought me to Rayo's. That's where I met you, and I met Charlie. And
Charlie was a Wednesday night. I'm a Thursday night.
So it was either Wednesday or Thursday, Carl.
Yeah. So how did you get to meet Tommy Lasorda when you were a teenager?
I met Tommy because I was in that business. I was in the sports card and memorabilia. I was a kid, and that was what I did, and I actually made a good living doing it. My good friend Mead Chasky used to manage Tommy, and Tommy would come to town, and we would pick him up at the airport. We would show from all he was managing the Dodgers at the time, so he was a very busy guy, and he got to really like me, and that's it. He would come to town, and I'd be his assistant, and he would find things for me to do, and he'd get a commercial, and he'd make them, pay me a fee, et cetera, and to this day, he's just like a second father to me. And the truth is, that relationship kind of paved the path for my life because I met so many people that changed the course.
Tommy.
No question. Charlie, you, a myriad of other people, and those relationships blossomed, and it also changed my outlook on life because being friends with so many grown-ups and not kids made me behave a certain way. And I always wanted these guys to like me and respect, like guys like Bo and guys like Charlie and Tommy. Like having their respect as a kid was so important to me that I wanted to behave and carry myself. So I was like this 17, 18-year-old kid that would wear suits because I wanted those guys to respect me and feel like I was an adult. And it absolutely changed the course of my life.
So you're always entrepreneurial. So did that just manifest itself by baseball cards, or were you interested in baseball and then the entrepreneurship came after?
Listen, I loved baseball. I loved sports from the time I was a little kid. School was not my thing from the youngest age.
Me neither.
Yeah. I mean, my mother and I always have this story about the first day of kindergarten. And she walked me, I was the happiest kid up until the first day of kindergarten. And she walked and told me she was going to leave. And I broke out sobbing, crying like a little girl. I felt that way about school up until the day I dropped out. When I was 16, I was selling my cards. And I was making a man-sized income. I was literally making $2,000-$3,000 a week.
Wow.
Yeah, this was in the beginning of that industry. There's a magazine called Sports Collectors Digest, and it started from a place of love. You'd buy these packs of cards, and you would have, I have 15 Mackie Sassers. I don't need 15 of these. I keep 3. I want to get this, so I'd take an ad out. And I never forget the first ad that I took. The ad cost $5, sold like $123, which, when you're 14, is all the money in the world. It's an unbelievable thing. And I realized that there was a business here. And it was a business where I could do what I loved. And it further pushed me towards not paying attention in school, which I hated. And you
didn't need it.
Listen, I was a bad kid. I wasn't the bad kid that got into legal trouble. I was just a bad kid that didn't pay attention in school because I never thought I was going to amount to anything in school. And I really thought that this is what I wanted to do. Needless to say, my parents weren't thrilled about it. But at 16, you can legally drop out of school of your own volition. You can do that. I was 16. I barely had freshman credits. I had saved about $40,000, $50,000, which was back then was real money. I had another friend of mine in the industry that had several apartments on First Avenue, and he offered to rent me one for $550 a month. I told my parents, I go, listen, I'm really prospering in this business. This is what I want to do. Is what I love.
What year are we talking about now?
I'm 16, so I guess I'm born in 74. So what is that, 90? I guess that's 90, right? So I told him that. My father says, okay, well, if you're going to do that, you're not living it. You drop out, you're not living in this house. Well, I'm glad you said that because my friend has this apartment that he's willing to, and I'm 16 years old, and I got my own apartment and never moved back.
So you started with the sports memorabilia at that time?
Yeah.
And I know I've talked to people many times who used to wait out in front of hotels when you knew they were there.
Well, like that whole, I mean, it's funny. That whole business has gotten out of control. It started during that era. That's the amazing thing. Like young guys like me, and like if we had been a little older and we'd had our act together. Yeah, well, we would have. I got to give one group credit, like Steiner. Yeah, Steiner Sports. He had a bad week this week. Oh, did you hear about this?
I personally know about it. I don't want to get into it.
By the way, I give him a ton of credit.
No. What he did was he put some more credibility to the sport.
No, listen, he helped build the industry. He absolutely helped. Like about 4 or 5 guys did. Yeah, no question.
One star, and he would have signings.
Yeah.
You knew the stuff. The guy's sitting right there, and he takes your picture as he signs it. I mean, there's no doubts about it.
They built an industry creating real values for this stuff. Absolutely. Brandon's a pioneer in this industry. Whatever happens, he's an absolute pioneer in this industry, deserves a ton of credit. And by the way, he's a very nice guy.
So then you started doing that, but you continued.
And this is all pre-internet too. So just remind people that. So you're doing this through these magazines and shows.
This is all like little magazines, shows, things like that. Yeah, I mean, this is the absolute infancy of the industry, where the biggest companies were 20 people in some little crappy office.
You were doing some stuff with nightclubs too. When did you start with the nightclubs?
No, that was later on. So I also bartended. When I was 18, there was a bar in my parents' old neighborhood on 73rd Street called the P&G Cafe. I knew that family well, and I asked my friend to teach me how to bartend. I would have done this for free. It was the most fun I ever had in my life. Because again, I was a kid that wanted to feel like an adult, and here I was behind the bar, and I'd have grown-ups.
Hold that thought. Yeah. Because, when I was younger, too, when I had big work ethics. I started working when I was delivering newspapers when I was 7, 8 years old and sweeping out factories. Because if I didn't work, I had no money. And then I'll never forget when I hit 16 years of age. And then you had what they call draft card, but you could type it right in there, put the date on there. I used to dress up in a suit. I used to go into the Jimmy Weston's, the Blue Angel, and I wasn't a cop yet, but I'd wear a suit. And I'll never forget, I met Frank Gifford's ex-wife, beautiful blonde at that time. She was young then. And she picked me up when I was only 16 years old. Wow.
I must have felt good.
But I used to wear a suit, dressed to the nines. Every bit of my money I would spend on clothes. I would iron my own shirts with Niagara spray starch to make my shirts and all that. I knew how to sew. I knew how to cook. I knew how to do everything. But I always wanted to be part of that. And I'll never forget, too, Copaine's restaurant on First Avenue. If you watch The French Connection, that's where they were eating the Chateau Briand.
I bought this restaurant 30 years later.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Go ahead.
But the thing is that it's just funny that Copaine's restaurant was the restaurant where they had the frog from France, and they were eating they were slicing the Chateau Briand. And I had to go there. And I had to eat the same way they did. And then after that, Eytan, you started in the clubs. You were bartending.
Well, I bartended first, not in clubs. I bartended there. Then later on, I kind of really got to know the ins and outs of what it was to own a bar, because my friend was buying it from his father. And it was a legendary place. Like, it was in Donnie Brasco's and a bunch of movies. It was called the P&G Cafe. If you go online, you could see it. It looks like a classic New York place. No, unfortunately, like a lot of other places in New York, the lease ended and the landlord was greedy and it's gone. But I loved it. And then I just started going out and hanging out and going to clubs. I met a guy who would later on become my partner. He owned a club called 151 on 50th Street and 3rd Avenue. I, through Tommy, met a bunch of guys that were in the starting lineup of the Yankees in '96, before the whole dynasty era started, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, needless to say, it was very good for a nightclub to have those guys patronize their place. So, a young Derek Jeter and a young Charlie Hayes, we'd all go over there and we'd spend a lot of time there.
This was before Derek Jeter was Derek Jeter.
Correct.
He was just a young ball player.
He was a young guy with a strange haircut, And Sorry, Derek. It absolutely changed the dynamic of that club. And then the whole dynasty era happened, and the Yankees were the hottest thing in sports. And you remember this. They hadn't won in God knows how many years, and it was a big deal. They beat the Braves in 6. And I became very friendly with the owner because, I mean, it took his nightclub from being an average nightclub to this was the place, I mean, that the Yankees went after the World Series, et cetera, et cetera. And it became known as the Yankees Hangout. And it made this, midtown corporate nightclub into this really hot space.
So when you used to bring them in, how would they, you had to make money off of it?
I didn't. That's honest to God. At the time, I was happy just being treated a certain kind of way.
But then you would develop a relationship. If I owned a joint, you helped my
that was it.
Then you
that
need
was what I would get.
Goes back and forth.
I always felt I'd walk in like Henry Hill at the Copa. Like I was treated like a superstar. I never paid for a drink. I got great tables. They treated my guys well. It was really about that. Then when I got to be really friendly with the owner, I said, I would love to get involved in this. We were in the process of buying into the place. He got into his partners were really annoying guys. They didn't appreciate any of the stuff that I did. And it wasn't even an opinion. I mean, you looked toward the change in the numbers from the time I started bringing all my business there.
And you weren't even charging
to a year later. And it was dramatic. It was like millions. It was dramatic. And finally, my partner Ronnie goes, why don't the two of us do our own club? And that's what happened. We opened a club on 23rd Street called Suede, which was a great success. We were open for 4 years. We sold it to a good friend of ours. And then this is where Copan comes in.
And that's when you decided to open up. Copan was finished.
Copan was finished. It turned into a Chinese restaurant. It turned into Tony Roma's. Then it turned into a Chinese restaurant.
Tony Roma, I remember the Chinese. Yeah. And then you opened up an Italian restaurant.
Yeah. So I opened an Italian restaurant called Destino.
You robbed the chef from Rayo's. Figured they have the best food in the world. Why not rob the chef and his son? And
I wouldn't have used the word rob, but okay.
Okay, acquired. Acquired is a good word. Okay. But why not open a restaurant with proven people like that?
Sure.
Not the worst in the world, but, you get a little bit of reputation of taking people that do things and taking them away.
I wonder where we're going with this. So it's a funny thing. So,
I do love you, Eytan.
I love you. I love you very much.
I really mean that.
I know you do.
I'm so happy you're here because your story is, as we continue, is a real New York story. Go ahead.
So it's true. I met in all my time going to Rayo's. I got to know the chef. I got to know his son. The chef kept saying he was going to retire in a couple of years. Kept saying that. And then I talked to his son. I said, listen, this is the hardest table in all of New York and certainly one of the hardest in the country.
In the world.
I said, if you could get your father to be the chef at our restaurant, we're going to have a runaway hit on our hands. Talks to his father. His father goes, okay, I'll do it, but I'm only going to do it for 2 or 3 years. And I'm only going to do it because it's you guys. I talked to Charlie, and I asked him his permission. And Charlie spoke with Frankie. And he said, because it's Charlie, it probably would have been an unpretty situation had it not been for Charlie and for Bo. But Frankie was a gentleman. Frankie is the owner of Rayo's, who's passed since. Yeah. He was a gentleman about it. He even came in and wished us good luck. And I saw him on a plane, I would say 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, actually. I saw him on a plane coming back from Vegas. He was very nice about it. He didn't have to be. The truth is, the chef came over. It wasn't the greatest situation. The chef, once he got there, didn't really feel like making Rayo's food anymore. And like a lot of the classic dishes, a lemon chicken, all the stuff that Rayo's is famous for, we ended up not doing a lot of those. And it wasn't
meatballs changed too.
Yeah, it wasn't the best relationship, and it wasn't the best situation. But yeah, it was the chef from Rayo's, and it had that. It had a lot of potential, and it just never reached that potential. Yeah. Unfortunately, I ended up selling it to them, their family. I opened up Southern Hospitality with my partners Justin Timberlake, et cetera, et cetera. We opened that right in that time frame. That was 12 years ago. Southern went strong. We opened up a couple locations in Denver. Unfortunately, the company we opened it with Denver went bankrupt, and in that bankruptcy, they took those locations too, which is a shame. It's a Southern concept of bringing Memphis-style barbecue to New York. Very successful. Everything was good. And then I opened Hunt and Fish Club.
Which is doing great.
Which is great. We're going to be 5 years old.
Hunt and Fish Club, I think, is one of my favorite restaurants.
Oh, thank you, buddy.
great steak, great atmosphere, great people.
One of the best atmosphere. The bar is amazing.
No, I mean, it's a great bar, and
amazing.
I think that's a home run, and I tell everybody to go there because I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, it works. I mean, it's. I think we're one of the better places in Midtown. We're going to be 5 years old.
Don't cheapen on the steak, right?
I don't, buddy.
Because there's a joint in Hamptons, I'm not going to say. I used to go, and then all of a sudden they cheapen on the steak. He's eating friggin' rubber. I don't mind spending the money, but I want to be able to chew the steak. And you see people try to cut. You don't cut. You don't cut on quality.
Can't do that.
Because people just will say, fuck it. I'm not going to eat there because they're charging me this kind of money. I'm not getting a good steak. You know, I went in with Jack with the Wolfgang.
Yeah.
Now, Wolfgang I met back in the 70s during the blackout of 77. I met Wolfgang and the old Peter Luger's in Brooklyn during the riots of 77 blackout. And also Yankees, I was there when that guy hit 3 home runs with Charlie Camella, sitting in Charlie's seats when that guy
Reggie Jackson
hit the 3 home runs.
Yeah.
But
Mr. October.
It's all around the same time, so I remember it distinctly. And then Wolfgang opened up a place called Wolfgang.
Wolfgang's.
Yeah, and Jack Morris, my partner there, the construction guy, he opened one up in Somerset, and I got 5%, but honestly, I've never seen a penny, but they're doing very well. And it's great steak, but it's a great quality steak that you can't get in a regular steakhouse in New Jersey. You go to Wolfgang's and you get the same steaks as Peter Luger. Say no more.
Yeah, Wolfgang's a great product.
But that's the point. The point of that whole conversation was you keep the quality of the product up there, and that's so, so important. Mm-hmm. Then I never got asked with the famous Rayo's sauce that I was there. I think I brought more people to Rayo's, the most famous from Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, every actor in the world. We casted Goodfellas out of there with Scorsese.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Everybody in the world, and never ever. When they were doing the sauce, when they first started, because I learned how to cook watching Annie Rayo and I learned how to actually cook from there. And my life was Rayo's. When it burnt down that time, Frankie said, you know, Bo, I'm not going to open it back up. There was like threats going back and forth. I said, no, Frankie, this ain't just your restaurant. This is my home.
Yeah.
For my 22nd birthday, I was going there as a cop, and it was my life, my home, Christmas Eves and everything. It's a remarkable, magical place. But, when we lost Frankie, we lost a lot. I don't know if it ever could be the same without Frankie, because Frankie was one of the most unique.
How different is it now? I haven't been.
Well, Carlo, can you invite my friend?
It's like, yeah, sure.
But it's not the same. With Frankie was such a
the singing.
I did a eulogy at his funeral, and I said, you know what, Rayo's has been around 120 years. It was around during the 20s, 30s, 40s. All the gangsters, Lucky Luciano used to go there. The Flying Dutchman, everything was there. Nobody else was in the place. But then it went through, and then the 50s came, and the 60s. All of a sudden, around 1972, 73, this guy came in there, and he was a singer. And he said, my Aunt Anna is one of the owners. I'm going to bartend there. I'm staying for 2 weeks. And the guy never left. That's Frankie. Make the long story short, what happened was he is the one that brought it all about. Yeah. And then we had Gail Green in there. And I say it's like the Dark Ages. And then all of a sudden, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, that was Frankie, an artist, singer, actor, entrepreneur, politician. He was the people's person. You had problems, anybody who had financial problems, go to Frank. Frankie would take care of the little guys. Yeah. He was another one of my closest friends. I've been having a bad batting average here with friends, taking the pipe. Really, I lost my best friend, my brother, only 4 months ago. Yeah. But but Frankie was Rayo's. I go up there tonight on Thursday nights. People think that it's great, but it ain't as great without Frankie there, and I always say that. So let's get back to you.
Well, you know what though? I do want to talk about that because it's a funny thing. Because people ask me why Destino didn't work the way it was. Because you would think, and by the way, Timberlake was involved in that, and they asked me why. You had the head chef from Rayo's. It's a year to get into Rayo's. Why didn't it?
Yeah,
and I can. You could see the truth only. You only know what the truth is after the fact, right? The truth was Rayo's is more than just those meatballs, and it's more than just the lemon chicken. See, there's a magic there. there's a chemistry there. There's a magic there. It was Frankie singing. It is Bo and all of his showmanship and his wonderful guests. And it's the environment, and it's the fact that it is at the end of that street in the middle of Harlem, and there's so many things that make Rayo's Rayo's.
Yeah,
and
they tried with Vegas,
right?
And they opened up in LA.
And by the way, they're tremendously successful. And listen, it's still good in Beverly Hills and everything. Is it the same? Listen. You can't recreate magic. Magic is a gift. Magic is a gift from God.
That's the word I like about
it's the truth.
Rayo's. It's magic.
Yeah, magic is a gift from God. You can't recreate it. Somehow, we all do certain things in our lives. If we're lucky enough to hit magic, whether that's in sports, whether that's in whatever it is we do, if we're lucky enough to get there by, like in the restaurant business, it's a variety of layers, right?
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because New York City is a notoriously competitive place. People the people that are going to the restaurants are very picky.
Sure.
You have rising rent, you have increasing costs.
Hardest market in the world for restaurants.
Hardest market in the world. Like, I think it's something like 50% fail.
90-something percent.
90-something percent.
Yeah.
So, being like you've learned from failures and stuff like that,
sure.
What do you think goes into making a restaurant successful? Like, what do you need to do? And we discussed some of the elements, the ambiance, the host, the food, all that kind of stuff. So what are you, in your opinion, and you've been very successful, what does it take to make something successful?
I think it's a lot of things. I think you have to start with concept, right? You have to start with concept with neighborhood, right? Is this what your neighborhood is looking for? Like, you might have the greatest recipe for X. Your grandmother makes the greatest chicken of all time. You have to ask yourself if that works for that neighborhood. Then you have to ask yourself, is the rent sustainable for that? Then you have to say, okay, how many seats? What do I have to do to make that rent? How many people do I need to service this?
And I can't overcharge because people run away.
The reason the failure rate in this industry is so high, yes, it's the hardest city in the world to make it. Yes, I'm going to say this. I hope I don't get too many enemies. I think we have a current government in place that is anti-business. I think they make things very difficult for us. I think they should embrace us more. I think they should embrace the business and the culture that we bring. That was one of the platforms that I really appreciated in your mayoral campaign, and I would have supported you no matter what. But the fact that was so important to you was very important to me. So to be successful, again, it's another thing. It's magic. It's luck. We can all say whatever we want. Luck plays a part in it, because sometimes you do. I was at a restaurant. I walked by a restaurant just recently, right near the White Horse. It was called Gunther Seeger, and it won. Gunther is one of the most important chefs in history, and it won a Michelin star, which is that's the Oscars of food. And it went out of business after 3 years. So I have no doubt the food was fantastic, but for whatever reason, it didn't hit the critical mass, and it didn't do enough business to survive.
What comes to mind too is P.J. Clark's. My friend Steven Siegel was one of the owners. And chili and a hamburger, no better. And it's great. I haven't been able to get down to the White Horse, but I will be there as soon as next week. Right. I'm looking forward. You got the burgers going in?
Come on, buddy. Of course I got the burgers.
Yeah, let me tell you something. The area that you're in down there is a very neighborhood type place. Yeah. And we got to be careful. We, meaning because I love you and you're part of me. Yeah. We got to be careful in the sense of jacking prices up. Everyone is price conscious today. Yes. It's like the cyclical. It's going now. Right. People are worried. Even in the Hamptons, you got 5,000 houses for sale. People are nervous, and if this guy doesn't get reelected, like him or not, we're going into a turmoil. If Trump doesn't get elected the next time, it's going to be tough. People are afraid of what's going to happen, because in the reality, everybody wants free stuff. They want to put taxes up the caboodle. You know how much we pay here in New York City. Yeah. I'm a New York City resident.
Sure.
We pay like 53%. My point is, people are conscious about the nickel and dime, and that nickel and dime doesn't go as far as it used to go. So, a really good hamburger should be $15, $16.
That's what we charge. We charge
well, that's
$16.
What it should be. Yeah. But in reality, some of these people will have their incomes. They're worried about paying their rents. That's something you got to walk a tightrope. You can't go too high, otherwise you'll lose I'd rather have that regular person going in there.
You have to walk that line of realizing you can only pass on so much of your expenses to the consumer.
Yeah,
it's still a hamburger, right? It can't be unfair. It can't be a $30 item. It just can't be. You can't do it. So
And forget about the truffle in a burger.
No, I don't do
and
that.
all that crap.
No, I
Because
don't
you
do
know
that.
what? A burger is a burger, and that's it. With
I
nice
agree with
crispy French fries. Stay with the basics.
I'm a
And,
purist guy. I don't do that. I don't do the aiolis. I
that's
think
all
a burger
bullshit.
should be a pure item.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm with you.
You want to throw stuff on it? Throw stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we do go a little cheddar cheese and bacon. I like a little bit.
I like American myself.
Yeah.
But,
I like the blue cheeseburger. I think
Well, I see that's a little too funky for me.
Yeah, it's a little too.
You want to? I eat blue
Yeah.
cheese on my friggin'
But
salad.
listen, the White Horse is a very important project. So, yeah, I just took over that space. I'm the fourth owner in history. It's the second oldest pub in the history of New York.
When was it built?
1880.
Wow.
1880. So it's famous.
I'm going next week. man.
I'd love to have you. You should go every week. This should be your Rayos. By the
Well,
way.
maybe it may
should
become.
be. It
How
should
far
be.
is it from my office?
5
What
minutes.
street's it on?
Hudson Street. 567
Hudson and
Hudson
where?
and 11th.
Hudson and 11th
Yeah, it's the
Street?
biggest outdoor cafe in the city.
I'm going next week, man.
love it. I
Make
love
sure you pop me there. When I'll bring somebody cool with me.
So
okay?
the famous poet Dylan Thomas, this was his favorite pub. One night, unfortunately, he had either 16 or 18 shots, depending on who you believe. He went home and died. But this
What
was
was
his...
shots mean? He got shot in the head?
No. Shots, whiskey.
Anybody killed
Welsh
there or
whiskey.
anything like that?
Not that I know of. Wouldn't surprise me, but not that I know of.
Okay, you
Jim
didn't look in the
Morrison
basement?
loved
You
it
didn't
there.
look in the
I looked in the
basement?
basement. I didn't find the bodies. They must
No
have moved
bullet
them.
holes done?
There's one in the window.
Come on.
There is one in the window.
A story. I'll bring people in.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of history that you don't even need to make anything
There's
up.
a
Who
lot.
else were some of the
Jim
luminaries?
Morrison, Jack Kerouac, Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan used to come in there.
Well, Bob Dylan's hero was Dylan Thomas. He named himself. Bob Dylan was Robert Zimmerman when he was born. He named himself after Dylan Thomas, who was his favorite poet.
Great history.
Yeah, and that's the same bar, and it's a landmark pub. It's one of two landmarks.
So give us a little bit on what your menu like. Did you change it?
I did change it. Having said that,
give us some
we
of the
still
stuff.
have a burger. We still have some wonderful salads. We're gonna have a steak on the menu. It's going to be simplicity.
You got chili?
I don't have chili.
Chili's a good thing.
Chili's a good thing. I don't have
Not in
chili.
the summer, it's
we have
Carlo,
great.
I like friggin' chili.
Well, then we're
okay?
gonna have chili then. We have a great selection of beers. We have a first-class cocktail team. My chef just got 2 stars from the New York Times in the last place he was
Great.
at. So it's gonna be great food, but it's gonna be great pub food. It's gonna be elevated, but it's gonna be pub food. It's not gonna lose what it's supposed to be. This is still the White Horse Tavern. It's still.
Well, we're going to pump this up.
Yeah.
How many followers we got? 35,000?
Yeah.
Get it out there. Meet the Bo at the White Horse Tavern.
That's it. It should be Thursdays at Rayos and Wednesdays at the Tavern.
Yeah, you know, that could
That
be.
should-
you
that's
want to
where you
know
should
something?
be.
That could be a very nice
That's it.
rotation. Yes.
You, me, and Gary V. We'll sit there and
well,
sit on the
he's
patio
still around.
together.
He was with
is.
me in
I know, it's Assault.
Vegas.
I know.
Gary
He's the
V
best.
and the other guy there. What was his name? The guy we were trying to track down.
Which one?
The guy who was worth 50.
Mooch?
No, forget about Mooch. The guy who was he's the manager for all the
Oh, Scooter Braun.
Scooter Braun. was
Scooter's
out
the
there.
best.
Yeah.
I know Scooter since he was a kid.
Really?
Absolutely.
He done very well for himself.
Better than Ben. By the way, I'm so proud of him.
Smart.
I'm
very
so
smart.
proud. Scooter used to be, he tells people this story. He used to be the kid that would come to my club and he'd be at the door and he'd go, I was the guy in the Ludacris video, and he knew I was friends with Ludacris. And I'd let him. He was just a nice guy. And the funny thing is, when he started doing really well, we ran into each other at this club. And he's with a group of people, and he's on top of the world. Everyone's kissing his ass. And he's sitting there. He goes, you know what? He goes, this guy was nice to me, treated me well when I was the kid out front of the club, and I'd taken off my baseball cap when he'd walk by, and he was always so nice to me. I'm so proud of Scooter. Scooter's seriously one of the most important people in entertainment right now.
Wow, that's big to say. That's big.
And I remember.
Well, I get that from a lot from my generation. They even have the respect for Scooter. He's a lot younger, but he's got that respect with
All
everybody.
the top artists are.
Forgetting, and all that's true, he's also done a lot for charities. He's a guy who's raised tens of millions of dollars
Yeah,
for
there was
charity.
something that somebody
the thing
came
for
to me.
Texas, that disaster in Texas, he raised a
Well,
ton of money.
somebody came to me with that. Some guy from Israel, a rabbi, came to me and had this idea about credit cards as far as giving a certain amount to helping people all over the world.
Yeah.
We still might follow through. I like doing nice things. In reality, if you can help people, that's a tremendous thing because we've been very
what
fortunate.
does Gary always say? Doing the right thing is always the right thing.
That's it.
Isn't that the expression?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So now we got the White Horse Tavern, and we're doing great with our with the Scaramucci restaurant over there.
Yeah, thank God. Hunting Fish is great. Pizzeria is doing great.
How was there a little bit of a controversy about the White Horse Tavern? Because you're obviously,
the controversy. No, we could do it. Well, he's talking about the White Horse, not pizza.
I know.
The reason is because they've had only a few owners in history. The fear was that I would change things. That's the reason. They were afraid that I was going to turn it.
I wrote you a letter about your character.
You wrote me a beautiful letter. I went in front of the community board and I spoke, and I said, listen, I don't want you to be afraid of this. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm a New Yorker.
So it doesn't get shut down.
And it would have. It absolutely would have.
And then it would be opened up something weird.
And by the way, it would have been a Dwayne Reed or a Chase or something. We would have lost another amazing New York institution.
That was a great point.
Like Carnegie Deli and like so many other wonderful places that meant so much to New York. So I did this coming from a pure place, and I wanted them to understand that. A lot of them still are skeptical. But I think, if you go there and you see it now, and you'll see I haven't made any changes. I've just fixed what needed to be fixed. I have a menu that represents what the White Horse is. And I'm there because I'm a great New Yorker, and I love New York. And this is one of the most important taverns in the history of New York. But that was the controversy. They were scared that I was going to turn into kind of like the Hunt and Fish Club, like an upscale steak place.
Well,
and I had
had
no intention of doing that. So
hey, I got an idea for you. My favorite pastrami in the whole world, bar none, is Katz.
Katz is great.
Katz Deli.
I'm a Carnegie guy, but Katz is great.
Carnegie ain't there anymore.
I know. It breaks my heart.
Katz is still there.
Yeah.
And they do actually able you to buy that.
Goldbelly.
To buy the food.
Yeah.
What a great idea for the White Horse. Get
burgers,
a Katz pastrami sandwich or corned sandwich. I would love that.
We'll do Bo's famous chili.
Yeah.
We'll sell it on Goldbelly.
Oh, no, we get it going, right? Yeah. But, so now you're still doing the memorabilia stuff too?
My partners handle that. I still have investments in that business, but no, I'm all about the restaurants.
All about the restaurant.
That's what I do.
And when did you see my most famous, I love my greatest entertainer?
Who are we talking about, Mr. Timberlake?
Of course.
I saw him the last day of his tour was in Mohegan Sun. I just finished his Man of the Woods tour, which was tremendous. You and I went to see a show together on the last tour. Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what, Carlo? One of the nicest guys in the world. Yeah. No bullshit backstage. Class.
Yeah,
all I can talk about is Justin Timberlake. He performs like nobody else. He dances like no one else. He sings. He brings the crowd to their feet. This is one of the top entertainers there is out there today. Yeah. You could take them all. You got to put them right at the top. And I'll look forward to seeing him again, meeting him with you.
Yeah, he's great.
We should get his ass up to Rayo's with his love.
He'd love it. He'd absolutely love it.
Look it up with Carlo. Yeah. We'll get a date when he's going to be in town. Say, Bo would love to take his wife.
He's a big fan of places like that.
Yeah. We'll do that.
He would love that.
Yeah.
He really would.
You keep in touch with Andy at all?
I do. Frankly, I'm ashamed of myself. Not as often as I should. But I do. I keep in touch with the sons. I talk to Sal and John. Yeah.
This is Camella.
Yeah.
And he has three sons.
Yeah.
And Annie Camello is Charlie Camello's wife, who we love very, very much. But you know what? I really, really thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you, buddy.
We've been trying to get you
Pleasure.
for a while.
I'm thrilled.
We had some heavy duties here, so you're right amongst the heavy duties.
Who are some of your favorite guests you guys have had? I saw you had Frank Pinello from Best Pizza. By the way, he's a great guy in the pizza community.
Oh, the pizza guy?
I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
Yeah, he's good. Some of our favorite guests, had Ken Langone, how he started Home Depot.
Kenny's great.
Yeah, who else, Bo?
Yeah, my buddy Danny A up here. That's a great one.
Danny A.
That's a great one.
He just spoke to me yesterday.
Yeah.
His movie. Did you see the trailer?
From Mobtown?
On the Mob one?
That's going to be great.
Unbelievable.
It's going to be great.
And
David Arquette.
David Arquette. We've had him on our show.
Sure.
Yeah,
Chuck Zito's a great guest.
Yeah, Chuck Zito's a great
Paulie
guest.
Malinaggi's a great guest. Paulie Malignaggi, the boxer.
You guys
Who else? We've had come on.
A lot. Geraldo Rivera's been on the show.
Sean Hannity. I mean, we had
great people.
Oh, no. We had
the Mighty Mooch was up here.
Oh, the Mooch is good. We're gonna reel him back in. I don't think there's anyone smarter on economics or anything as the Mooch.
He's
the
Mooch sharp guy.
Is the smartest guy I've ever met on all aspects of statistics and stuff. Boom.
You and I go back with him before he was the Mooch, before all this stuff.
Yeah.
He was just a banker.
Yeah. I go back when he first started the Skybridge Capital.
Absolutely.
And I love the mooch. I'm glad he straightened his act out. He was wavering a little bit there. Wow. And I said to him, listen to me, in life, and I did tell him, and I'll say right in front of his face, in life, some things are more important than other things.
Sure.
And family, you have 2 young children now.
Yeah.
That's more important than all this other bull crap. And you got to reel yourself in.
Yeah.
All this other stuff will be gone tomorrow, but your family will be there forever. And you got to remember that.
Every one of us at some point in our life loses track of ourselves.
Yeah. Well, all I know is I'm the ex-detective cop that made probably at least $100 million and pissed it away, gambling, every aspect of negatives of life. But, I never quit. I just keep on rolling. Yeah. And I keep on coming back, charging back. And I'll never stop. I'll never quit. And that's the whole thing about whether you be a restaurant owner, whatever you do, you got to keep at it.
No question.
You got to make it the best, and that's all.
That's the only way,
so what we do is every week we do something that's bothering you, like a punk of the week.
Okay.
We call it punk of the week. What is bothering you now that you got your license with the White Horse? So that's not bothering you anymore. Mm-hmm. What is the thing that really affects you the most this week?
Oh my gosh. I honestly, I'm pretty happy. I can't really think of anything that's upsetting me this week. I should have more time to think about it.
Yeah. Carlo, what about you? Get off the phone. You pick one out on the phone?
Yeah, no. I just wanted to make sure the story was straight. So I want to call out the punk fan in California who pushed Kyle Lowry at the NBA Finals last night. That's a real punk.
Yeah, it was stupid.
Punk move.
Carl, you bring up shit that I don't even know about.
Well, Toronto Raptors player Kyle Lowry, who I went to school with at Villanova, he's an all-star player, and some fan shoved him.
Really?
Some jerk.
Well, my punk of the week is Charlene McRae, the First Lady of New York City, who can't explain the last $250 million that was earmarked for mental health to help people with mental health issues. And she doesn't know where the money went. I think it's total about $800 million. What I do is I call upon the U.S. Attorney, Southern District, investigator. Because if I stole that money, you'd be cuffing me. And I got a double punk of the week. The other punk of the week is this Central Park 5. The real story is not on Netflix. I know for a fact. I spoke to the DA, Linda Fairstein. I talked to all the detectives, my ex-partners, of what really happened. We had a thing called wilding in 1989.
That was a big thing. People forgot about that. You couldn't
go into Central Park. These 5 punks robbed no less than 6 people, smashed a guy with a lead pipe over his head. They were robbing people of bikes. They're not as innocent as you think. The only redeeming factor that they had was this little guy, Reyes, when she was laying there, he raped her. So his DNA was in her. So then they let him out of jail. My point is sometimes things are not what they seem. They were not 5 innocent little boys. And I called upon Cy Vance to take the evidence that is there. Right now, we have what they call touch DNA. If I touch you now, my DNA is on you. Back then, we didn't have DNA. I call upon him, and I'll pay the money for it. Let's look at the evidence to see if any of these 5 people have their DNA on any of her clothing or any of the stuff that they use for evidence. That's all. And if it's not there, I'll give them more money, and I'll apologize to each one. I will guarantee you they have their DNA off of that woman that was beat almost to death. So they're my punks of the week until we could prove otherwise. If we could prove that they weren't there, I'll apologize to them. But I'll guarantee you, I'm a detective my whole life, and I know what I see with these 5 guys. And they were out there robbing people, verified. That's why they went to jail. Now they do movies, and they make everyone look like they're innocent little boys making their communion. That pisses me off. And that's my punks of the week.
Fair enough.
All right. So, Eytan, where can people find you online? How can people find your restaurants, find you?
Well, you can see me at the White Horse Tavern. I'll be there a lot, 567 Hudson. If I'm not there, I'll be at the Hunt and Fish Club, 44th Street. If I'm not there, I'm off in a Made in New York Pizza. And you can always follow me on Instagram, Boy from New York City.
All right. There you have it. You can find us. We're on social media. We're at One Tough Podcast on Twitter. Bo is at Bo Deedle on Twitter and at The Real Bo Deedle on Instagram. You could find me. I'm CJ Coutinho on all platforms. You could also send us an email. Any questions or guest suggestions you have, send to onetoughpodcast@gmail.com, and we read each and every one of them. Thanks a lot for listening.
And I welcome everybody. I think, what do I got Wednesday night, Carlo? I'm pretty clear. I think I'll be at the White Horse Tavern. You want to whack me? Come see me at the White Horse Tavern.
We'll see you next Wednesday.
Hey, we could make the place like famous, like Spark.
Try not to miss him and hit me, though, okay?
Thanks so
All right,
much.
thanks so much, Eytan Sugarman, for being here. We'll see you next week.
Hello, folks. Larry Kudlow here. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Please go to freegoldguide.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.